Okay, let's talk about WCW.
Yeah.
All right. First of all, before you came into WCW, they had the Renegade, who is played by a guy by the name of Rick Wilson, who's no longer with us.
Yeah, he's dead too.
Yeah, he's dead too. He killed himself. Um, he was obviously a clone of the Ultimate Warrior character. Were you aware at the time that they were even using like a ripoff of the character?
Well, I found out, but I mean, I was the real deal. I was the guy that did it.
Right.
I mean, even stepping outside from having been the owner and the creator and the performer of it, it was always amazing to me how anybody could think, that's him.
Right.
That's him.
So you were never offended?
I didn't appreciate it.
Okay.
I didn't appreciate it. And I had a good laugh out of it because what I thought was that they got together, Hogan and Jimmy Hart and those guys over there and Bischoff, and they really thought, and I really believe this, they really thought that if they did that I would track them down with gear bag in hand and say, how dare you do that? I am him. I really thought that they were thinking that they were calculating that I would do that I would show up at the next TV. They were trying to draw me out.
Right.
And I thought, man, this is really funny.
So, what led to you coming into WCW? Who placed the first phone call?
I had a conversation with Hulk probably in 97 or something. He called me. Right. And he was slobbering all over himself about how he was going to do all kinds of great things over there. And like that I should just show up to go along for the ride. And I said, well, I'm really happy doing what I'm doing. I'm not interested in, coming over there just to go along for the ride. Right. And making it very clear that, because he was talking about the authority he had over there to literally just write checks, basically, is the way he was saying it, that they approached him, they wanted him in there, so he had the checkbook, and he could do anything. But also, in the same sentence, telling me, but, I'm thinking things through. I'm not necessarily just going to be wild with writing the checks. But I made it clear to him that if I was going to come over there, then it was going to be a pretty wild check. And we had that one conversation, and then Eric Bischoff ended up contacting maybe my attorney out of New York.
Do you think Hogan wanted you to come in just so he could get his WrestleMania 6 back, his win back?
You?
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Yeah, I mean, is that sick?
Yeah.
I mean, that's hilarious, man. When I was over there's a guy that's insecure, man. And I didn't know it because I had the chance to spend some time with him. He invited me to come to his place after we did a TV for WCW in Miami. He invited me to come to his place the next time the week before Halloween Havoc or something like that. So I went down there early. I flew to Tampa and I stayed with him one night. And man, it was an eye-opening experience. But there's a guy that's insecure, really bad. It was disheartening to see somebody with so much, had done so much, and can really do anything, and has incredible power to get attention, right, to get something, get some empowering messages out to young people and stuff, and he's not using it.
Right. How would you compare Bischoff to McMahon?
Well, you could break it down a bunch of different ways, but the simplest way would be the McMahon is a leader. Right. He's a leader and he's a planner and he follows through with his plan. Bischoff he always used to use the word spontaneity. The spontaneity is one thing. Showing up an hour and a half before live TV when millions of dollars are on the line, that's lunacy. That's not spontaneity. That's lunacy. You need to be in a straitjacket.
So
I think he let anxiety get to him. He probably could have visited and got his prescription filled a few more times than he did.
Right. So what was the backstage scene like in the company? Was it just utter chaos?
Yeah, everybody was doing whatever they wanted to do.
Right.
There was no leadership at all. no direction.
How do you compare your WCW run to your runs in the WWF? Was it as fulfilling for you?
Brutal. Come on, you thought you were going to catch me on that one?
No.
It was, Dynamite Kid used to say, Brizoodle, man.
Right.
That was Brizoodle. I mean, that match with Hogan was the worst one. And it is ironic that I had one of my best ones and my worst one with him.
I was actually going to ask you if you thought that was ironic.
I mean, they didn't put me in the ring. I had a 6-month contract. See, when was it? Halloween Havoc, end of October. My contract ran till the end of November or end of December. And after we had Halloween Havoc, the next night they were in Phoenix. Well, I lived in Phoenix, so it was, it was just a natural that I was going to show up there. They did the little spas at the end where I came in and, threw everybody out of the ring. The next week was Kansas City. I only went to the TVs. I show up at Kansas City and nobody expected me to be there.
How'd you get the plane ticket then?
The office, I mean, that's how, chaotic and unorganized the office was. The office had sent me a ticket to get there. So I got there and I wasn't, nobody expected me to be there. I tried to get to talk to Bischoff. He wouldn't talk to me. And for the next couple of weeks, I think I called, well, the number that I remember is I called 16 times. He wouldn't return my call. And all I asked him to do, I said to him, look, this doesn't make any sense. Put me in the ring. Let me work matches. My stuff can happen in the ring. It didn't make any sense. The kind of money that they paid me. And then for the last 2 months of my contract, of a 6-month contract, I didn't even work it. I mean, they didn't give the character an even opportunity. That was stupid. The first 15 minutes was a launching pad to do really great things. OWN was a great concept. Ultimate Warrior was already over as an intense killer. Right. I mean, I tore my bicep when I came back, and I was back, and I was in the ring at Halloween Havoc 4 weeks later. There were guys that tore biceps and didn't show up for 6 months and still got paid for it. Right. So, there was nothing that I did to turn them off to the idea of using Ultimate Warrior in some way. They took OWN, which was a great concept. One guy can't do everything. I went under the ring after I did the 15-minute spiel, Good versus Evil and Hogan. We did the trapdoor thing. I went down there. I had to wait till everybody cleared out of the building. When I came back through the curtain, all the crew people were there. And they were congratulating me, saying, man, that was awesome. This is really great that, you're here and the way this thing turned out. Nobody from the office, Bischoff or Hogan or anybody, called me or nothing. I didn't talk to any of them. And then on the next Monday was TV. On Friday, I called Hogan. Brother, you went over our head, he says. He got offended because I was working the gimmick out there in the ring. And they blew it. I didn't blow it.
Right. What did you think of the idea of the entrance with the trapdoor and the smoke and all that? Did you like it? Did you think it was appropriate for the character?
I thought one time. I thought they were going to use it one time. Right. The first night. And they started using it over and over again. Right. But look, again, only one guy can do one thing. They were already convinced after the first 15 minutes that this guy came back and made an impact that went over our heads. And that's not the plan we had. The plan is get him into a match with Hogan and let Hogan pin him so Hogan can feel good about himself. Right. And, so the fact that I came back, it did something good.
Do you think they automatically cut your legs out from under you the second you were on TV and they saw that in your reaction? Yeah.
The first 15 minutes was great, man. Did I have all the ideas? No. But it takes a team. It could have worked out really great. Right. By then, too, entertainment had already, taken its provocative turn and was into degenerate behavior and, the signs and the this and the that and, the fat stuff, PHAT, whatever it is. I don't know. It's just a bunch of junk.
Right. Were you aware that the wrestlers are going to the ring without knowing that there was a trapdoor there and they were getting hurt by taking bumps on it? Do you think the company should have been more responsible about telling the wrestlers?
I didn't know they knew. Yeah. Didn't know.
Yeah. That's how Davey Boy...
No, Davey Boy. Man, Davey Boy was gone before he ever took a bump on that door. Go watch the tapes. He was all doped up and stuff. He was, Neidhart told me on a plane one night that they were smoking crack and stuff, that they were into smoking crack. Right. And something was wrong with Davey Boy. Yeah, I mean, he couldn't even walk right.
Okay. I was actually my next question was how there's a lot of talk about how bad the drug scene in WCW was at that point. Did you
I
ever?
don't know. I've just never been into any of that stuff. I've never done the cocaine. I've done the pharmaceutical prescription drugs that I can get when I need to have them.
Right.
You're on the road for 20 or 30 days in a row and you're sleeping 3 hours a night. You got a schedule like that. Sometimes you're going to do what you have to do.
Right.
But I never got abusive with it, and I never did the street drugs.
Okay. Come back to WCW. That brought you back for the first time in years to the same company with Sting again. What was it like seeing him again? How had he changed as a performer and a person? What was it like teaming with him?
Well, we never had the opportunity to really sit down and talk, but he was cordial. Right. He was nice. He was gracious. He was friendly. One time in the locker room, we had a chance to sit just for a few minutes together, and he was friendly, and he was gracious and welcoming that I was there and stuff like that. That's a lot of years to go. He had experienced success and money and fame and everything himself. It does something to you the way you process that stuff. You become a different person. The match that we worked in together got thrown together at the last minute, and it really didn't mean anything.
Okay. Just a couple of thoughts on some talent. What'd you think of Goldberg, who was pretty much a really hot character at that point?
I was complimentary of Goldberg, and matter of fact, the first night I was at WCW, I pulled Diamond Dallas Page and Goldberg aside, and I said that they had inspired me in my training to make a comeback because of their intensity. I told Goldberg, I wrote about it on one of my posts one time when I got offended by his comment relative to somebody asking him when he was a kid, he dressed up for Halloween as Ultimate Warrior, and he sort of mocked it and dismissed it. The truth was, he was a mark for Ultimate Warrior, and he was a teenager at the time. He wasn't even a little kid, but he didn't have the confidence in himself, to say that. And that says a lot to me. It shows a lot about the insecurity somebody has. When I was at WCW, I talked to him a few times when he was caught up in what the head games that Nash and Hall and Hogan and all those guys were playing, the big soap opera of it. And I told him, I said, look, man, I said, you have the potential to do incredible things in this business if you just keep your head on straight and don't get into all the mind games and the head games. Now, who's somebody else is going to do that? Right. In my shoes? Nobody. Not in this business. No, not in this business. And that's exactly what they were doing. They were effing with his head because they knew he had skills, they knew he had talent, they knew he could do something, and they didn't want him to just focus on that. They wanted him to mess with his head, throw a little bit in the mix. And that's what the business is about in a lot of ways. Vince was always good about that. It wasn't just do your job and be productive and we'll leave you alone. It was always throwing something into the mix, to mess it up.
Next to it, we touched on them a little while earlier. Hall and Nash, what were your thoughts on them in WCW? And just shit stirs?
Yeah, shit stirs and backstabbers, and they spend just as much energy. There's a lot of those guys in this business and all kinds of business, but they spend just as much energy in how to be destructive. Right. Probably more energy on that than they do about how to be constructive and use their own abundant skills that they have.
Was there anyone you were particularly close to backstage in WCW, or you just kept to yourself at that point?
Yeah, I kept to myself.
Okay. What was the plan for the NWO versus One Warrior Nation storyline? Where was it going when you left? Did you have any idea?
In the toilet.
Yeah.
Where it eventually went. It just became ridiculous when it LWO,
Right.
Latino World Order. No, it fit for me, and it would have taken a round table discussion of creative minds, but One Warrior Nation was part of everything that I'd been doing outside the ring and where I was going in my life. Right. OWN spells own. Right. And it's relative to what I even do in my life today to go out to save people. Look, because you're born, you have the potential. Is it that black and white? Would that have worked inside the genre of professional wrestling? No, but it was a start to work with something. Ultimate Warrior was the type of character that already established itself in one way. It was possible, and that 15-minute segment proved it, to take it to another level with the good versus evil thing, right. Especially and tied into where we are culturally today. It's the only discussion that's taken place. Good versus evil, right and wrong, true and false. Is the line between the two, are they just blurred, or is there a line? That type of thing. It could have worked really good. Ultimate Warrior was a character that could have pulled it off. Did I have it down to a science, an exact science? First time I came back, no. But when the whole team turns and runs and thinks it stinks because it's going to take more work to do than just going out there and grabbing your crotch and trying to, be degenerately cool and hip, then it's not going to work.
So you were injured?
Yeah.
And
yes.
Did they ever talk to you again after you were injured? Did you ever hear from them again?
Well, yeah, I was injured, but I came back for Halloween Havoc. I got injured at what's the event they have before that?
Oh, Fall Brawl.
No, the one where I ran in the cage. They had the double cage match.
The War Games.
War Games, maybe.
Yeah, that was
I ran in, chased Hogan out, swung from the cage. I tore my bicep then.
Right.
I mean, what I did, look, I'm my own best self-critic, but what I did then was great. I kept working out with a rubber hose 6 to 7 hours a day so I would meet my commitment to be in the ring at Halloween Havoc. And there were guys that were tearing their biceps and they were taking 6 months off and milking it. There was nothing that I did. Even Bischoff said it, when asked about what I did and who I was as a person.
Why do you think that match in Halloween Havoc went so wrong?
Well, because Hogan didn't want to put any time into it. He wanted to do the basic stuff. He didn't want to sit down and say, okay, let's, look at this incredible piece of wrestling history we have between us in 1990. Because the premeditated plan was for me to come back and he could feel good. Right. He could, it would reinvigorate maybe a few more extra pieces of hair on his head or something like that for him to get the fall on me.
So what led to you leaving the company?
Well, I think I explained that already. They didn't call. I mean, was I going to buy my own ticket and show up?
Nah. Do you regret your run there?
No.
Okay. Do you think it hurt the aura of the Ultimate Warrior to the fans, or?
No, I think maybe people. Of course, I don't worry about what people think. That's probably pretty obvious. Right. Anybody that goes to my website and reads what I write and what I say. But, the fact that very soon after that they fell apart sort of, doesn't lend any credibility to.
Do you think there was anything that could have been done to stave that off or prevent it, or it was already too far gone by the time you were even there?
No, I think if somebody would have come in with the organization and said, look, 7 days a week we're going to plan. Right. We're going to think this thing through. Everything is fixable.